After you've cheated and you're on the train headed home, and it's a very erotic scene. And
well, it's not. That's very funny because sex on the train? There is no sex on the train.
Diane Lane once left all of Hollywood breathless with a single glance, eyes filled with depth, a sensual presence, and an elegance that lingered long after the screen faded to black. Her unforgettable performance in Unfaithful, 2002, didn't just captivate audiences. It defined an era of cinematic desire. Yet behind the fame and admiration lies a chapter few have ever heard, a moment when she nearly walked away from everything to shield a deeply disturbing personal truth. From becoming the youngest actress to grace the cover of Time at just 14, to rising as a timeless screen icon alongside legends like Richard Gere and Josh Brolin, Diane Lane's life has been a delicate balance of triumph and turmoil. Beneath the glamour were emotional scars, turbulent relationships, a highly controversial divorce, and rare private images kept hidden for decades. What truly made the world fall so completely in love with her? And which secrets were never meant to surface? In today's video, the unseen story finally unfolds, and what you're about to discover will change the way you see Diane Lane forever. Diane Lane was born on January 22, 1965 in New York City into a dysfunctional family. Her mother, Colleen Lee Farrington, was a full-time Playboy model who spent her nights singing in nightclubs to make ends meet. Surrounded by stage lights and a restless lifestyle, Diane was drawn to the world of entertainment from an early age. But beneath that glittering surface, a painful and lasting emotional wound was already taking shape. When Diane was just 1 month old, her parents' constant arguments ended in divorce. She remained with her mother, a choice that seemed simple at the time, yet quietly shaped a childhood filled with trauma and uncertainty. Colleen was a woman in love with freedom, travel, and the thrill of nightclub lights, far more than the responsibilities of motherhood. Eventually, she left New York to wander through Georgia, leaving Diane behind. With no other option, the young girl went to live with her father, a quiet, reserved man of patience and discipline. In that silent household, Diane learned how to be strong without making noise. Then, in 1971, when she was only 6 years old, fate intervened. Diane Lane stepped onto a stage for the very first time, marking the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. It was a turning point written by fate, a moment that quietly reshaped Diane Lane's entire future. That first time on stage was more than a debut. It was an unspoken realization that she had found her true place in the world. Soon after, she was invited to join the stage production of The Cherry Orchard, under the direction of Joseph Papp, performing alongside revered figures such as Meryl Streep and Irene Worth, names already etched into theatrical history. What truly set Diane apart wasn't just her natural talent, but a level of confidence and independence rare for someone so young. At only 13, she stunned the industry by declining an offer to work with Sir Laurence Olivier himself, a decision almost no young actor would dare to make. Instead of taking offense, Olivier recognized something extraordinary in her. He famously described Diane as the next Grace Kelly, a statement that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Almost overnight, her face appeared on the covers of leading magazines, and she was hailed as a once-in-a-generation child prodigy, destined to inherit the legacy of cinema's greatest icons. Yet while her star was rising rapidly on stage and screen, her life outside the spotlight began to unravel. School became a burden she resented, not because of rules or homework, but because it pulled her away from the stage she loved. Her grades slipped, her focus faded, and as she struggled to juggle fame and childhood, an unexpected turning point loomed, one that no one saw coming. Just as Diane's life seemed to find a fragile rhythm, the past returned in the most devastating way. Her mother suddenly reappeared and secretly took her away, not once, but repeatedly. Each incident sparked fierce legal battles that tore through what little stability Diane had left, plunging her childhood into deeper turmoil. When she was finally returned to her father, Diane retreated into silence, cutting off all contact with her mother for the next 3 years. It was a heavy, haunting silence, one more painful than any role she would ever portray on stage or screen. At just 15 years old, Diane made a choice she would later call the most reckless decision of her life. She declared her independence, left her father behind, and boarded a plane to Los Angeles to star in Child Bride of Short Creek. Looking back, She admitted that the decision was born from having too much freedom far too early. But beneath that impulsiveness was something deeper. Diane wasn't chasing fame. She was searching for a place where she truly belonged, a feeling she had never found at home or in school. In those early years, she threw herself into work, appearing in films like Touched by Love, Catalani and Little Britches, Six Pack, and most notably Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains. Each role brought her closer to recognition, yet behind the rising career was a young girl still trying to fill an emotional void, a story far more complex than the spotlight ever revealed. Those early roles were never box office sensations, but they were enough to put Diane Lane firmly on Hollywood's radar. Still, recognition alone was never her goal. Diane wanted more than attention. She was searching for a role that could redefine her, one that would finally break the image of a former child prodigy and prove her as a serious, fully formed artist who had earned respect through discipline and talent. That defining moment arrived with 2 film adaptations of S.E. Hinton's novels, The Outsiders and Rumblefish. The films marked the dawn of a bold new Hollywood era, introducing faces that would soon become legends: Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Nicolas Cage, and Matt Dillon. Within that charged creative moment, Diane was seen as the central figure of the emerging New Rat Pack, a title that sparkled with prestige but also carried immense pressure. As her star ascended, Diane was pulled into a whirlwind of expectations. Scripts poured in. Opportunities multiplied. Every open door demanded a decision, and each choice carried weight. She shocked the industry by turning down numerous high-profile projects, choosing instead to place all her faith in 2 films she believed would elevate her career to the next stage: Streets of Fire and The Cotton Club. But Hollywood can be unforgiving. Both films stumbled at the box office and with critics, triggering a sudden and painful slowdown in her career. The audience noticed. Doubt replaced admiration. And when Diane finally felt ready to reclaim her place, she discovered a harsh truth: the industry that once celebrated her now kept its distance. Her appearances in The Big Town and Lady Beware barely stirred the industry, falling short of restoring the stature she once commanded. Each attempt felt like another effort fading into nothing, as if her momentum had vanished entirely. Then, in 1989, an unexpected lifeline arrived. Diane's performance in the television miniseries Lonesome Dove reignited her career and reminded audiences, and Hollywood, of the depth she still possessed. For the first time, her work earned her an Emmy nomination, a powerful confirmation that her talent had never gone away, only waited patiently for the right moment to resurface. Yet even as recognition returned, fate dealt her another cruel twist. She was offered the role of Vivian Ward in Pretty Woman, but was forced to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts. From the sidelines, Diane watched as Julia Roberts soared to superstardom with the very role she had let slip through her fingers. A decade later, in 1999, Diane delivered one of the most nuanced performances of her career as Pearl Kantrowitz in A Walk on the Moon, alongside Liev Schreiber, Viggo Mortensen, and Anna Paquin. Set against the backdrop of late 1960s America, a time of Woodstock, the Vietnam War, and cultural upheaval, she portrayed a wife and mother navigating personal desire amid social change. The role was hailed as a turning point in her artistic maturity. Director Tony Goldwyn praised her for possessing a sensual, magnetic presence that never needed to be exaggerated. The performance earned Diane an Independent Spirit Award nomination, a powerful signal that something bigger was coming. And in 2002, it finally did. With Unfaithful, a bold and emotionally charged thriller, Diane Lane exploded onto the global stage, transforming herself into an international star and redefining her legacy once and for all. Unfaithful was more than a box office triumph. It propelled Diane Lane into the highest ranks of Hollywood, earning her a cascade of prestigious nominations, including the Academy Award, Golden Globe, and SAG Award. Yet behind the acclaim lay an invisible toll few ever recognized. Several of the film's most intimate scenes had to be res-hot, not because of technical flaws, but because they demanded an emotional nakedness that was brutally real. Diane later confessed that the psychological strain of those moments drained her in ways the audience could never fully grasp. The film's success proved to be a double-edged blade. While it elevated her status, it also locked her into the image of the wounded, yearning woman, a role that followed her relentlessly. As the spotlight intensified, Diane began to feel boxed in. She openly admitted that if Hollywood failed to offer her sharper, more layered characters, she was prepared to step away entirely. Even so, in 2010, she chose to appear in Secretariat, a warm and uplifting Disney film that told the story of Penny Chenery, the determined woman behind one of the greatest racehorses in history. It wasn't a career-defining blockbuster, but it allowed Diane to rediscover a sense of grace, strength, and inner balance. Another resurgence came in 2011 with HBO's Cinema Verite, a project that peeled back the curtain on An American Family, the first true reality television show in American history. Diane's performance, intricate, emotionally rich, and deeply human, earned her yet another wave of major nominations, including the Emmy, SAG, Satellite, and Golden Globe Awards. And yet, much like her professional journey, her personal life remained marked by struggle. Through it all, Diane Lane often found herself suspended between two extremes, public success and private pain, a tension that would continue to shape her story. In her personal life, Diane Lane often seemed caught in a painful pattern. Either she gave her heart to men who could not truly love her, or those who claimed to love her carried hidden intentions and shadows she could never fully grasp. Though she married only twice, her name was repeatedly drawn into rumors and whispered speculation, linking her romantically to some of the most famous men in Hollywood. One of her most widely discussed relationships was with rock star Jon Bon Jovi in 1985. Diane was just 20 years old at the time, vibrant, confident, and overflowing with youthful energy. Bon Jovi, meanwhile, was living life on the road, moving endlessly from city to city on tour. Their attraction was immediate and intense, yet the romance burned fast, lasting only 5 months before quietly coming to an end. Years later, in a 2008 interview, Diane explained the breakup with honesty and a hint of humor. She admitted that Bon Jovi's relentless touring schedule made any stable relationship nearly impossible from the start. Maybe the fact that he was never around is why it lasted as long as it did, she joked, acknowledging that while their youth aligned, the timing was never right for something lasting. The story, however, took on a darker and more complicated tone when Rich Bozsett, Bon Jovi's former manager, offered a very different account in his memoir Sex, Drugs, and Bon Jovi. He claimed that Diane ended the relationship after being caught in an intimate moment with Richie Sambora, the band's lead guitarist. According to his version, Diane was young, untamed, and drawn to a party lifestyle, and the day Bon Jovi allegedly discovered them was the moment everything collapsed. Whether truth or rumor, the controversy only deepened the mystery surrounding one of Diane Lane's most talked-about romances. When confronted with allegations that could have easily scarred her public image, Diane Lane responded with remarkable composure. She calmly dismissed the claims, stating that they were nothing more than an attempt to generate attention and boost book sales. Without bitterness or outrage, she explained that some people are simply willing to twist stories for publicity. Quoting lyrics with a hint of irony, she said, "Some people just want to sell books. I can't blame them. Let them say whatever they want, baby." Her words carried no defensiveness, only the quiet strength of someone long familiar with Hollywood's noise and rumors. By the end of the interview, Diane acknowledged that the memories of that relationship had gradually faded. Her life at the time was chaotic and overwhelming, and youthful romances, no matter how passionate, often disappear as quickly as they begin. In the years that followed, she found herself drawn to calmer, more grounded relationships, including those with actors Emilio Estevez, Timothy Hutton, and Christopher Atkins. Diane Lane's first marriage marked a more serious chapter in her personal life. She wed French actor Christopher Lambert, widely known for Greystoke, the legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes. The two first crossed paths in 1986 when Diane visited the set of Highlander. Though their initial meeting was brief and unremarkable, fate brought them together again 2 years later on another project. This time, the connection was undeniable. Diane later confessed that Lambert's presence alone was enough to completely distract her, so powerful that she struggled to stay focused on her performance. It was the beginning of a relationship that would soon change her life in ways she never anticipated. In a candid interview in 1989, Diane Lane opened up with rare honesty, reflecting on intimacy both on and off the screen. "When you're filming love scenes with someone you truly care about," she said, "you always feel like you haven't done enough, because you know how beautiful those feelings really are." Just months earlier, in October 1988, Diane had married Christopher Lambert in a quiet ceremony in Santa Fe. 3 years later, their daughter Eleanor was born, seemingly sealing their bond as a family. From the outside, the birth of a child appeared to promise stability and deeper connection. Yet, in a cruel twist, that very moment became the beginning of the end. When Eleanor was just 1 year old, the couple initiated divorce proceedings. Years later, Diane's reflections on that marriage stunned many. She admitted that what she shared with Lambert was never truly love. It wasn't passion either, but something indistinct, suspended somewhere in between, a feeling she could never fully name. Lambert's constant absences left their marriage feeling painfully empty. Diane once compared herself to a character in A Nun's Tale, quietly waiting in silence for a man on horseback to come and save her from a lonely room. When she finally understood how deeply that loneliness had settled into her life, she chose to walk away. Not long after the divorce, Diane surprised the public yet again by announcing her engagement to Josh Brolin, an actor who would later achieve global fame as Thanos in Avengers: Endgame. Few knew that their story stretched back much further. The two had first met years earlier, when Diane was pregnant with Eleanor, but it wasn't until nearly a decade later that fate brought them back together, and this time, the connection could no longer be ignored. In August 2004, Diane Lane and Josh Brolin exchanged vows in an intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. This time, Diane truly believed she had found what she had been searching for: intimacy, emotional closeness, and the rare comfort of belonging fully to another person. With Josh, she felt seen and understood. Yet the happiness she hoped would last quietly slipped away far sooner than expected. Not long after the wedding, Diane made a shocking call to the police, accusing her husband of domestic violence. The incident exploded across media headlines, then just as quickly disappeared from public view. Sources close to the couple later described it as a serious misunderstanding, acknowledging that a heated argument had taken place but insisting the situation had been exaggerated. Diane herself chose not to pursue legal charges. Still, for her, that single moment was enough. It shattered the sense of safety she had hoped marriage would bring. Despite years spent trying to mend what was broken, she ultimately accepted the truth. This was not the refuge she needed, and filed for divorce. On December 2, 2013, her second marriage officially ended. 5 years later, Josh Brolin finally addressed the incident publicly, admitting that he had overreacted and long felt the need to clear his name. With time, he said, he learned to release the past and focus on accountability and personal growth. Whether Diane and Josh ever managed to preserve even a trace of friendship remains unknown. Since their separation, they have never appeared together again. Rising above heartbreak and hardship, Diane Lane continued forward with quiet resilience, a woman defined not by scandal, but by inner strength. After more than 5 decades in the entertainment industry, many still wonder how she has managed to preserve such youthful grace after everything she has endured. During a Zoom interview, Diane offered a simple answer. She believes every stage of life carries its own form of happiness, and true peace comes from letting pain pass rather than clinging to it. She calls this an invulnerable spirit, the belief that emotional wounds either fade with time or transform into lessons for growth. Her well-being, she explains, also comes from discipline, limiting screen time, protecting her skin from the sun, and keeping her mind calm and centered. Now at 59, Diane no longer chases Hollywood's relentless pace. Instead, she devotes her time to her daughter Eleanor, the greatest source of strength and inspiration in her life. Beyond acting, Diane remains deeply involved in charitable efforts, particularly initiatives focused on combating global hunger. She currently resides in Los Angeles and holds an estimated net worth of $40 million. An impressive figure, though still small compared to what she considers her true wealth: experience, resilience, and self-awareness. As the video draws to a close, Diane Lane's story leaves viewers with a quiet but powerful reminder. Behind the glamour of Hollywood legends lie lives filled with struggle, resilience, and untold truths. If this journey has sparked your curiosity about the iconic actresses of the past century, be sure to explore more videos in this series to uncover hidden stories, rare images, and unforgettable moments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another legend. Thank you for watching until the very end.